Welcome to the Oscars Cheat Sheet Miniseries. Why bother having an opinion on this year's Best Picture nominees when you can just use ours? Hello, everybody, and welcome along to the Cult Popture podcast. You are joining us for our Oscars Cheat Sheet mini-series, where we're discussing each of the films nominated for Best Picture at the 2022 Oscars in a little series. And I am AJ, and that is Richard, and that is our actor/friend Aaron. Ha ha ha! Very funny joke. Hello, everybody. So Richard, what are we talking about for this episode?
We're talking about a film called CODA, which is a coming-of-age comedy drama written and directed by Sian Heder. Interestingly, this is actually an English-language remake of a French film called La Famille Bélier, and it stars Emilia Jones as the eponymous CODA, which stands for Child of Deaf Adults. Rounding out the cast, we've got Troy Kotzer and as her father, as Ruby's father, and Daniel Durant as her brother, and Marlee Matlin as her mother. The three of the brother, mother, and father are all deaf and played by deaf actors, which interestingly is a change from the original film, where they are all hearing actors playing deaf characters. And so the original film was pretty maligned for doing that. Know, people in the deaf community comparing it to like doing blackface. But it's so funny that it's like, of course, like that's like why you make the movie almost, but the fact that wasn't in the original. But I didn't realize that this was a remake when we recorded our last batch, where I said that Nightmare Alley, West Side Story, and Dune are all, and so we've also got CODA now, that there's 4 films where it's their second screen adaptation. But CODA is essentially about this girl Ruby, only hearing member of her family, and her sort of, she's nearing the end of high school, deciding what she wants to do afterwards. She's got a great singing voice and wants to become a singer, which obviously, when your family are deaf, it's like there's this
means nothing to them.
Yeah, and they're a fishing family, living in like kind of a small town, and things get complicated when the Coast Guard finds out that the family is deaf and says, "Well, you're operating unsafely because you can't hear, if we radio you or anything like that." And so then essentially they're told, like, well, the only way you can continue to operate this fishing vessel is if you have someone hearing with you at all times, which they can't afford to hire someone, so they can only bring Ruby out, and she wants to go to Berklee School for Music. And but eventually the family does sort of say, they go to this recital of hers, and although obviously they can't hear her sing, they can see the reactions of everyone around them, and they realize that our daughter clearly has a gift and we can't keep her here, so we'll work something out. And so they drive her off to Berklee School of Music. She gets in and goes off to college in Boston.
You've missed out the most important and most Oscar-y character in the film, though, Richard. The school teacher who believes in the students. Yeah. And whose name is Bernardo. And he says, V. "Don't say my name. Just call me Mr. V if you can't roll your R's," which I cannot. I just Bernardo said that. Is that it?
Yeah, you did.
Bernardo? Oh, cool. Bernardo it is, then.
No, you lost it.
So that's CODA.
What did everyone think of this film?
I thought that there are some brilliant moments of filmmaking in this film. Some of the best scenes I've seen in the whole Oscar lineup this year.
Yeah,
but the whole
point to specifically.
The whole of the movie I thought was otherwise just really good, but these moments of brilliance made me feel like these moments that were just really good felt a bit weaker, because it's like, well, I know the movie was capable of these tear-inducing, incredibly profound scenes, so why is most of the movie like about like high school drama and stuff like that? So overall I really liked it. I just think that there's some stuff in it that felt very beneath it almost, in terms of what I knew the movie was capable of.
Yeah. Aaron, what about you?
Yeah, I think I would be probably the same. I liked the movie, but then there are, like, I said this to you when I was thinking about it, like, you can kind of see how much it was made for. And I guess that's like, it sometimes feels like those kind of things hold it back from being a truly amazing movie. But then that's not to say that, like, it's not a good movie, you know, like, there were things like, you know, the camera that they used is clearly like not as good a camera as some of these other movies were shot on. Some of the costuming stuff was like, man, it really just looks like you're wearing something that's off the rack and like not actually this character's clothing.
What an interesting reading of the film. That didn't even occur to me, but I'm enjoying this perspective.
Yeah, I mean, these characters would very much shop off the rack, though.
That's true. Maybe they just like every single item of clothing they've bought is straight off the rack from, and then they just throw them out. Yeah, and also like some of the like guy who plays Ruby's love interest sort of looks like the sort of actor you would cast for like a straight to TV love interest, which is not to take anything away from that guy. Like, he obviously, like, it's a great performance, but like, I don't know, there were just things about that made it seem like this was supposed to be a kind of like mid-tier movie that transcended itself, I think, personally, through the performances of like the actors, basically. But also, that's not to say that I don't think, like, it's important that these sorts of films are recognized because they tell stories that are important, and also because, like, truthfully, the performances and certain like shifts in what is otherwise a formulaic story make this like a really good film.
Just speaking of the guy Miles, the love interest, you mentioned, did you guys recognize him from anywhere?
No.
He's the main character from Sing Street.
Oh, right. Yeah. Cool. I think that the weakest part of this film for me was that she struggled at high school because she had bullies who would make, you know, do deaf impressions behind her back and shit. And I'm like, this is the kind of thing where it's like, bullies don't do this anymore, but this is how someone who hasn't been to high school in 30 years would convey the struggle of a teenager. I think it's still like this, whereas I feel like it's not really like that anymore.
Definitely not.
And yeah, and so that kind of stuff, that felt like it's what you were saying, Aaron, that it's pulled out of this like this much weaker movie. But I totally agree that the performances of the actors, and particularly the performance of Ruby's father, create almost like this Oscar movie diamond in the middle of this ball of coal.
Yeah.
Is that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you chip away and you discover something that absolutely should be nominated. You know?
To contrast with you guys, this is my favorite one by quite a bit. This is the first one that I like loved. I watched this before driving my car, and I did, because I'm also, you know, an art house kind of guy. I did like that too. But yeah, CODA was like that. So like every year, I feel like at the Oscars there's like one film that like I feel like, you know, isn't going to win, but is my favorite, or it's like, you know, the best one. Last year it was Sound of Metal. The year before that it was Parasite, and it did win. Year before that was Black Klansman. The year before that was Called by Your Name. And then 2016, I didn't watch all of them, but the year before that was like Mad Max. The year before that was Whiplash. And there's always kind of one, and I was worried watching that I'd watched most of them this year, and I had the thing where I was like, there are none of these that feel like mine. You know, there's like, there's none that I feel attached to personally. There's one, like a lot of them I'm like, yep, these are good films, yada, yada, yada. But there was none that felt like I have a stronger reaction to this than the Academy, you know? And then CODA kind of did that. Drive My Car to a lesser extent, I think, because I'd heard nothing but good things about Drive My Car, and so whereas CODA I'd sort of heard mixed things about, and so it was cool to then, have one that felt like it was like, oh, I'm gonna go out to bat for CODA. But yeah, I having now read some people's criticisms of it, I do understand that it's maybe a little bit predictable / formulaic, and I think that's where a lot of people have sort of said it feels more like a Hallmark film. But I think it's an interesting thing that it's like, yeah, you can take a pretty tried and true story structure and a story that you know where it's going, and still make a beautiful, heartfelt movie out of it. I thought all the performances were great. I thought, as you mentioned, there's some really, really good scenes that are like, amongst the best in the entire.
What ones are you thinking?
So there's obviously one at the end of the recital when the rest of the family, specifically the dad who was nominated for an Oscar, is sort of grappling with the fact that their daughter does have this gift and they are unable to share it with her, and he sits on the back of their pickup truck with her, and he asks her to sing for him, and he sort of puts his hand on her like neck and her chest so that he can hear the vibrations of her singing and can obviously also see the emotion, and he asks her what the song's about. It's
immaculate. An incredible scene. Like bawling my eyes out, kind of like beautiful performance from both actors. I love that scene.
And then her audition for Berkeley, where she runs late but she gets to do it anyway. It's all very formulaic. She doesn't bring her sheet music, but then Bernardo comes, I'll accompany her.
I'll do it.
And so he starts to say, she's obviously she's very shy throughout the movie as well, and so she doesn't sing her best, and then so Bernardo purposely fucks up the piano and then goes, oh, sorry, my mistake, can we start again? And then sort of gives her a look like, you're blowing this. And then when she does her second tape, her family sneaks in to watch from like the mezzanine sort of area.
And this is all enhanced greatly by the fact that she's singing Both Sides Now by Joni Mitchell, which is such a great song, especially for this kind of like story.
Yeah. And her family, she notices her family walk in and she starts signing the lyrics to the song.
Oh god, it's so good. It's so good. It's a perfect moment in like a movie, to like have all these there are movies which have elements floating in the air that they don't realize they can pluck out and combine into one like super scene, but this is an example of a movie that knows to do that, And her signing the song is fucking magical. It's such a brilliant scene. And as cliche of like, Bernardo is like a character who's like, you turn on the Oscar machine and it spits out a character and you put that in your movie. He is that, but
it's like it's almost the like, how do I get through to these kids? South Park.
That's not to say I don't like the character, because of course I do, because these cliches exist for reasons, because they're effective, right? And so I enjoyed his character, and I think like, there's a scene where they're rehearsing and he's like, you've got to really sing from your lungs, and it's very like, this is so cheesy but it's so working on me. So yeah, like I enjoyed a lot of the cliches. Some of them I wasn't so big on. I remember, Richard, you never let Little Woman live down the fact that it's got a no, you're actually on fire joke in it.
Awful
this
movie.
This has two moments in it where someone tries to say something in sign language and it ends up being something hilariously not what they meant. And that to me is like the same level of like,
although I think
cliche joke.
When you've got a movie about sign language,
deaf people,
it's you're working with a certain set of tools. When you're writing, you're adapting one of the greatest novels ever written, and you've got the entirety of the English language at your disposal. You could do better than you're actually on fire.
But then you are holding those two movies to different standards in a way then, right?
I just can't believe that. But the thing about Little Woman is that I feel like I'm the only person in the world that noticed it and that thinks it's that can't believe we let Little Women get away with saying
you're actually on fire.
You're on fire. Thanks. No, you're actually on fire.
Yeah, but look, my ultimate diagnosis of CODA, I think, would be like it's maybe like mid-tier nominees, but it maybe has the best scenes, like the best individual scenes of any of the nominees.
Yeah, the odds are putting this third behind the two films we're still yet to talk about.
I would not be surprised if this won, because all these cliches and things gives it the mainstream edge that a lot of Best Picture winners have, but it also has those edges that elevate it, like the performances.
Yeah. Also interesting
certain
about
scenes.
this as well, it's Apple TV Plus. This was released on. So they're finally getting into the Oscars game. We're still yet to have a streaming film win Best Picture, which feels like it should have happened a few years ago already. But you know how those Oscars are.
So what else is CODA nominated for?
CODA is nominated for
CODA.
Best Picture, Best Supporting Actor for Troy Kotzer, who plays the father, and Best Adapted Screenplay.
I'm so glad he was nominated. I didn't know that. That's great.
Yeah, it is interesting as well. Like I was saying to Aaron, like the casting of this film, just like how real. Like obviously wanting to cast deaf actors, the pool of people who are deaf and
actors
is going to be fairly small. And Marlee Matlin is obviously probably the highest profile deaf actor in the world. She won an Academy Award in 1989 for Children of a Lesser God, and is to this day the youngest woman to win Best Lead Actress, or supporting to win. I think it's lead. Anyway, but that it's like you have, you're casting just you want a high profile deaf actress. You cast the Meryl Streep of deaf actresses, and then Troy Kotzer is like a similar sort of thing, but they look so perfectly like small town fishing. Like he looks like,
oh my god,
and then she looks like small town fishing MILF, who like the father, like, and that they have this really healthy sexual relationship. That it's like, these two actors, I just loved how perfect they are for their roles. I also it's cool as well. A few commentators have pointed this out about how sexual because quite often films with featuring characters with a disability, they're either completely neutered, or it's like, oh my god, they overcame their disability to fall in love, and it's just like, nah, these people just like us, they love to fuck.
Did you ever watch Crip Camp, the documentary?
No.
There's a scene in that where a elderly man with I think it's cerebral palsy is reminiscing of the time at this camp when a girl with cerebral palsy gave him a hand job, and it's so funny. It's such a great scene in this documentary because everyone's being treated with the same amount of respect, and a outburst of, I think, chlamydia happened. There was a chlamydia pandemic at Crip Camp because all of these kids were having sex for the first time.
Every deaf person in this film fucks.
Yeah, that's great. That's what you want. And yeah, so is Marlee Matlin nominated as well?
No, she's not. Interestingly, because you may have noticed we haven't brought up the Best Actress category yet, because none of the nominees in the Best Actress category are in films nominated for Best Picture.
That's bizarre. Has that ever happened?
Last time it happened was 2006.
That feels like it's bad. That feels like a bad omen.
The first time in the preferential era, it says. So I guess that's the type of voting.
Great. All right.
Um,
There's some term I was never going to understand the meaning of.
but yeah, I mean, especially like now that we have 10 films as well. That, I mean, because when it last happened, there was only 5 nominees for Best Picture. That was the year that Reese Witherspoon won for Walk the Line. But yeah, no, it's just an interesting sort of quirk. Yeah.
Well, does anybody have any final thoughts?
Aaron, do you have any other final thoughts?
On CODA? Yeah, no, I think you're right. It's a really beautiful film that sort of transcends formula and also subverts formula. I think there's definitely aspects of it that are not formulaic, or like you expect this beat and it zigs when it zags. Yeah, I don't think I have anything else profound to say. I would say, honestly, it's probably mid to lower tier for me, just because of the like overall kind of film stuff. But yeah, I would reiterate that I think the performances are incredible, and it was very emotionally affecting when I watched it. So maybe in a like emotional way, it would be like definitely solid mid tier, but maybe in an intellectual way, my brain's like, but does it? But is it? Yeah. So fuck my brain. Just go with the heart.
I've ranked this as my 5th favorite Best Picture nominee. So I guess for me, it is the upper, the mid tier bursting through to the upper tier. I guess for me. Which I think speaks to what I was saying before about it. So it's a combination of an okay movie and a really good movie. So cool. Well, that was our discussion on CODA. If you enjoyed this, everyone, please follow Cult Popture on Instagram and Twitter. You can also join our Discord, which there is a link to in the show notes. And you can also throw us some money if you like on patreon.com/cultpopture, or you can email us at cultpopturemedia@gmail.com. Come and tell us whether you thought CODA was a great good movie or a good great movie or whatever fun terms. Make up a term. Come up with a term to describe how you feel about this movie. And yeah, I'd love to hear people's thoughts. And Richard, what is the next film we're going to discuss?
Right. Well, we've got the sort of the 2 that feel like they're in contention for Best Picture left.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about Belfast first. And since we're a bunch of Kiwis, we can talk about the Kiwi one last.
We can go from the film which needs subtitles because you can't understand anyone without them to the film that needs subtitles but doesn't have them because you can't understand anyone without them. I'm making fun of the Irish. All right, we'll see you next time.
They've been through enough, AJ.